Today we are joined for the second time by Sacha Lord, who will tell you a little bit about his job, his professional career up until this point, and a little bit about his story. Hopefully this session will inform you, inspire you, and show you that there is hope in Greater Manchester. Throughout this session, if you do have any questions, then please pop them in the Q&A box, and we'll have time at the end to answer them. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Sacha Lord. So just to get us going, Sacha, can I ask you a little bit about your school experience, what you wanted to be when you were growing up? That's like a topical question that are asked to young people by adults frequently.
No, absolutely. Good morning, Jane, and good morning, everyone listening or watching. So I'll be completely honest, when I was at school, I really did not know what I wanted to do. I had passions, I loved Manchester United. I wanted to play football for them, but the problem was I wasn't very good at football, so that wasn't going to happen. And I jumped all over the place career-wise, and I'll be honest, Jane, it was a stress to me because lots of people in my class knew that they wanted to be an accountant or a lawyer or a dentist or a vet or work in the family business or something, and I just didn't have an interest in that at all. So I kind of, a lot of my life was very concerned about that, and even leaving school at the age of 18, I still didn't have a clue what I wanted to do. And it was by chance at the age of 22 that I came across a career path I wanted to follow. So I think anyone listening to this, Jane, my advice would be, if you don't know what you want to do at this moment in time, don't panic about it. Just enjoy your school life at the moment, because ultimately something will come along.
I think that's a really important message, and a lot of young people that are watching or listening this morning will be able to sympathise with that, because they might not know or understand what they want to do at the minute, and that's the entire purpose of the Meet Your Future campaign and us hosting these sessions. So going on to when you immediately left school, where did you head on to after your GCSEs?
So I did my GCSEs. And I did quite well in those, and then my A levels, actually I didn't get it. I failed them all, Jane, if I'm being completely honest, and that created even more concern because everyone in my class was going to university, and no university would want me because I didn't have the qualifications. I actually wanted to study art, and I was accepted at Manchester Metropolitan on the foundation course, but I needed to get 2 E's, and because I didn't, I couldn't join my colleagues. Other pupils. So I started to work in the clothes shop in Altrincham for £20 a day, and that was my career for the first 3 years, measuring people's trousers and selling them suits and matching ties to the suits. But in a way, it kind of gave me structure, to get up every morning, walk down to work 9 to 5, get back. And it did teach me quite a few life lessons, but I think also because it was a shop selling high-end clothes, so clothes that cost quite a bit of money. I was earning £20 a day, and I couldn't understand how on earth somebody could spend £80 on a pair of jeans, and for me that was 4 days' wages. So it gave me the kickstart, I think, to realise I wanted to have a taste of what those people buying those jeans were getting, and that led on some exploring other career options.
So how did that lead you into what you're doing now, hosting festivals and night events? What was the transition for you, the in between them two parts of your life, really?
So I was kind of lucky when I was 17, 18. That at that time Manchester was called, it was known as the nickname across the world as Madchester, and there were loads of amazing bands coming out of the city region like New Order, James, Smiths, Stone Roses, And there was a nightclub in Manchester that no one will have heard of, maybe some of the teachers listening, called the Hacienda. And there was a new type of music coming out of the nightclub, house music, acid house music, and I was obsessed with that. And it was a really nice space because at the time back then in Manchester, and bear in mind, I'm talking now 30 odd years ago, Manchester was nothing like it was now. There's so much opportunity in this city region that back then we didn't have. But when you went to this club, it's a bit like when you go to the football now, you're on the terraces. It doesn't matter the person stood next to you, whether they were a lawyer or a postman or a student or unemployed. When you went to this club, no one really cared. It wasn't about what you wear or anything like that. You were there for one reason. That was the love of the music. And that really, I became obsessed with that. So I started to put on small parties of 100, 150, 200 people. And it kind of just exploded from there. And now I'm probably best known for being the co-founder of Parklife Festival, which my capacity is 80,000 people. It's the biggest metropolitan festival in the UK, and also the Warehouse Project that's on the slide there, which has the biggest nightclub capacity in Europe of 10,000. And I think last year we had 316,000 people come through the doors at the Warehouse Project between September and New Year's Eve. So, you know, I would say my career, Jane, has been, there was a lot of hard work in there. There was a lot in the early days of a gamble, taking risk. I think there was a lot of luck in there. I think I fluked to get there. But I think one message I'd like to just try and portray today is, you know, if you are worried about what you're going to do in the future, then look at me. I had no qualifications whatsoever. And now, you know, I've got Parklife, I've got Warehouse Project, and it's afforded me, you know, a nice way to live, and some opportunities that, you know, people that did go to university, some friends who went to even Oxford and Cambridge, they've never had the opportunities that I've had. So I think just everybody listening to this, stick to your guns, stick to your passion. And if you really do push hard on those things, you know, with a little bit of luck and wind behind you, it will pay off.
I completely agree. You did touch a little bit then on the Warehouse Project and Parklife, which are both massive names in Greater Manchester, big contributors to the local and regional economy. So I'd like to just go into that a little bit more. The job roles that are available in the nighttime industry, and specifically within your organisation, what is available for young people, and also, so two questions, the skills that young people could be developing if they are looking at entering into this space.
Yeah, I would say to anybody watching this, you know, it's not a quick fix. There's no one is going to become the sound engineer for Calvin Harris or Snoop Dogg tomorrow. You need to start at the bottom and work your way up. So when I'm stood at Parklife or the Warehouse Project, I can honestly say, hand on heart, I've done majority of those jobs, whether it's working behind the bar, whether it's litter picking, you know, there's nothing there that I wouldn't actually do myself. So if you are interested in working in the nighttime economy or festivals or nightclubs or events or gigs or live music, I would say start at the very, very bottom and work your way up, because, you know, that's the only way you're going to fully understand it. And, you know, it's easily accessible by industry. Most people can go and get, you know, a job in a restaurant serving or in a live music venue. There's ample opportunities out there, especially now coming out of the last 2 years. There's lots of space. So if you are interested, then by all means, I think you're going to point people to a website or a couple of websites, aren't you, Jane? But yeah, you know, start at the very bottom, work your way up. There's no quick fix, but when you do get, you know, up to the top, it's fantastic. And, you know, it's not, I've decided to stay in Greater Manchester with Parklife and the Warehouse Project, but there is ample opportunity if you're interested in travelling abroad. You know, you can follow artists all around the world. This is a global industry you can work in. So it's an exciting industry as well. You meet so many people, not just the mega stars. You know, everybody this year wants to meet 50 Cent at Parklife, but it's the people that come with them who are more interesting to me, actually, people who work behind the scenes. So it is a really, really exciting industry to work in, and I'd welcome anybody to to join it.
Okay, that puts us just within time. So the last question, again, you've just touched upon it there. Your favourite people you've worked with today. So some big names at both the Warehouse Project and Parklife.
No, we've worked with a lot. I think just, you know, referencing back to everybody has to start from somewhere. Is back in 2006 on New Year's Eve, I paid a DJ £250. I'd never heard of him before. I booked him as a favour, friend of mine. £250. That DJ now gets paid £1.2 million to DJ for 4 hours, and that was Calvin Harris. I paid David Guetta £500, Florence and the Machine £400. So all those people have started and come from nowhere. Stormzy, we used to pay £200. I think one thing that I don't know whether press are watching this or not, but just referencing a Manchester thing, and I'm hoping there's no press on this because I'll get a kicking, but there's always a debate about Noel and Liam Gallagher, and you know, both of those have played for me a few times, and I can tell you absolutely hand on heart, out of the two of them, I am 100% team Liam. He is the nicest person that you could ever possibly meet. You know, he comes across with this persona, this swagger for the cameras. He's not like that off camera. He's a really nice, genuine, down-to-earth person. So yeah, go and buy his album. Good guy.
A little plug there as well. We have got a couple of minutes left with you, so can I just implore schools or young people watching, please ask questions if you do have any questions, and we have a couple of minutes to answer them. So we have had some through whilst you've been talking. So the first one, the best thing about your job. I think that's quite a nice question.
Do you know what? The best thing about my job is probably something that people aren't expecting, and people are probably expecting to say meeting the artists, and that's nice, but it's very short-lived. What's nice for me is actually, for example, when Parklife is on, and I think you mentioned it, Jane, forget what happens in Heaton Park near Prestwich. Forget that. That's where the festival is. But actually that weekend, if you think about taxis, restaurants, new outfits, hotel rooms, things like that, we bring £13 million is spent in the city centre that weekend. And that's really nice. But after the festival as well, we've set up something called the Parklife Foundation, and that's a trust. And we give about £100,000 and £110,000 out into the local community to thank them for letting us put the event on that weekend. And it could be things like hanging baskets outside old people's homes, or a new slide, and actually giving it back to the community. It means a lot to the whole team to actually physically see it there. That's one thing we do really enjoy.
Okay, it's brilliant. I live relatively local, so we see that happening on grassroots level, which is brilliant. This is a lovely question. Did you ever feel like giving up at the beginning?
Absolutely. You know, I don't know who's asked that question, but it is a really good question, and I kind of touched on it. You know, for years I just did not have a clue what I wanted to do. I really didn't. And you know, when you start off, it is tough. And I'm not going to lie, when I started off, you know, everybody thinks it happens overnight. It doesn't. I lived in a bed sit in Salford. I was signing on. I was paying. I think they were paying my housing benefit, which was £33 a week, and it was so difficult for the first few months, having to pay for the DJ, having to pay for the flyers, to advertise it, because there was no social media in those days. You know, the long hours standing outside clubs, handing out the flyers, my adverts, to encourage people to come to mine. And on the actual night itself, if not enough people turned up, then you know, you couldn't afford to pay for next week's DJ flyers. And you know, I got myself into a mess the first couple of years with bailiffs coming around, and you know, I couldn't pay bills and things. But I decided this is really what I wanted to do, and I pushed and pushed and pushed. And I think it was probably 5 years in that I realised that now I can just steady the ship a bit and move forward and start to expand. So it was really tough. And yeah, you know, it's very nice having an income coming in 9 to 5 and you're guaranteed that at the end of the month. But that just wasn't for me, Jane. And I totally respect and understand why people want the security for that, especially if you've got a mortgage and kids and you've got to put food on the table and pay bills. I get that, but it wasn't for me. But everybody chooses a different path, don't they? I hope that's answered that question.
No, you did, very eloquently, so thank you. We have some more coming in, so if you're happy to keep going for a couple more minutes. So this is from Wrighton and Crompton Academy in Oldham. What is the most unusual artist you have ever met?
I probably can't tell you because the teachers will be very upset with me. But I have come across some very odd people. I'm not going to mention any names because it would be wrong of me, but there was one artist who comes and he plays us quite often. It might give it away slightly if I tell you he wears a big mouse head on his head and he has lasers that come from his eyes, but he insists, and it's so random, he insists on one of those, you know, those football table things that you can get and you play against someone. He has to have one of those backstage, which is fine. We've had more unusual requests than that, but he plays by himself. So he leans over the table and literally plays by, and I've always found that, I've never wanted to understand why or ask him why in case it would upset him, but that's weird. But, you know, we've had so many strange requests coming in. It's not always the artist, it's what they ask for in advance. There's a thing called a rider, Jane, and what a rider is you agree to pay the artist his fee or her fee to turn up, or the band's fee. You pay for the accommodation, you pay for the travel, and then a rider is actually what's on site, and that's what they want in their dressing room. And we've had things like oxygen tanks, fish bowls. We had an artist playing 3 years ago at Parklife, and she wanted 24 wild organic oysters with a specific knife to open the oysters. Just very, very random little quirky things. But if you don't get them, they really kick off. You know, they cause such a fuss if they don't get their particular thing. There was one, I'll tell you, it was 2014, we had Snoop Dogg playing, and Snoop turned up, and he's a big guy, you know. He must be 6'3", and he's quite lanky. He's like a little piece of pasta. And anyway, he turned up and he had these amazing white trainers on, but it was raining. And to walk from his porter cabin to the steps at the back of the stage, the porter cabin is where he gets changed, his dressing room, is no more than 10 feet, but he refused to leave there until we'd all gone and cleaned the steps on the in case there was mud on there. He didn't want to get on his white trainers, which is a funny thing to do, but actually he was a really, really nice guy. He was a lovely person. And I think, you know, this year, I mentioned before, 50 Cent is headlining Parklife. Everybody's really excited. It was by luck, you know, we booked him, but we never realised he was going to appear 2 days later at the Super Bowl when he came out with Snoop and Dre and people like that. So, yeah, that was completely by chance, and it did help our sales. So, yeah, there's just some interesting characters. A lot of stuff I can't talk about.
It all sounds very, very exciting. Last couple of questions back to employment. Two that have come in from the opposite end of the spectrum. One from Alder Hill. What is an entry-level job within the warehouse project? They've said specifically, but maybe across both of your significant portfolios. And then how old do you need to be to work in this industry? And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, which has come in from Earlham and Cadishead, is how much would an executive in your industry earn?
Wow. So I think I would advise anybody, and we do it at Warehouse Projects and Parklife. There's something that is called shadowing, and I work closely with the Met and the uni, and as part of the course, we do allow students to come in and shadow. So they might follow me around for a month. They might follow Kim around, who's our GM. She looks after all the bars. They might follow around the people that deal with logistics, like the staging, the arenas, the sound, the lights, or they might decide to jump between each department, spend a week in each department. And I'd advise anybody that is a very, very good way to go down. Just dip your toe in, try to understand exactly what it entails, and take, by doing that, you can have a taste of all different levels and areas within the industry. So I think that's a good starting point, shadowing. I know the final question. What was the one after shadowing, Jane?
On the opposite end of the spectrum,
Yes.
an executive in your industry, what would be like expectant salaries?
So there was a question just before that, actually, I just remembered. So it was regarding what age you can get.
Yeah, ages. Yeah, sorry.
So unfortunately, and I know the age range listening or watching this, when you sell alcohol, which most events do, there's a license attached to it, so you have to be 18. So that's normally the entry level age, 18. Having said that, that's during the events. To start shadowing somebody in an office environment, you don't have to be. You could be 15, 16. So yeah, at that age, I'd probably start reaching out. The exec levels, so it's kind of difficult. It's all over the place. I would. It depends. So I'll think of a company called Live Nation, who are a large entertainment company, probably the biggest in the world, actually. In the UK, I'd expect an exec in Live Nation to be earning in the region of about 140, 150,000 pounds.
Brilliant. Sacha did share information with us before the session started, which was for opportunities in the industry. It can be found at Nighttime Industries Association website. The link is in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to hear you speak. Thank you for your continued commitment to Bridge GM and GMAX, and we look forward to seeing you again.
No, thank you.
Students that are watching, enjoy the rest of your day, and be sure to look out for the other sessions we have happening for the rest of this week and on into the rest of this academic year. That's it from us. Bye.